All right, so I was out in the local town of Le Havre last night with the lads. Had a great time. I was the only officer there representing His Majesty's Army. You know, we went to a bar or two, had a few drinks. By a few, I mean loads. Honestly, it was incredible. It was such good fun. We're all really getting on with each other and sort of mingling with the locals, and they seem to enjoy it too. Plenty of Le Skirt around, which excited some of the boys. I was actually chatting with a girl called Framboise. Not Framboise, that's a jam. Francois, I think it was, Francois, at the bar. And I was going swimmingly. But then my pal, Victor, came across, and I think things hadn't gone as well for them, so he was a bit annoyed, and he suggested we go to the local knocking shop, La Maison Tolerière, as he put it. I said, Victor, why would I bother doing that? Why would I pay for it when I've got it for free? Clearly. But he didn't seem to see my point of view, and some of the other lads as well were a bit put off, because I don't think things had been going as well for them as they had for me. And so I agreed to go along. They're all nice, particularly Victor. Private Victor Daniels is his name. Private Victor Daniels from Tuck North. And he talks to me like that, you know. All right, Eddie, you dick. I'm like, all right, Victor, drop and give me 20. Who's the dick now? It's just a classic bit of, you know, we're friends. So anyway, to the knocking shop we did head. Although usually, of course, an officer like myself would go to one of the blue lamp houses, you know, where it's all champagne and condoms and so on. Very classy affairs. But anyway, the privates, they go down to the red light houses, and you know, I like to show one of the lads, so I sort of joined in and went with the privates down to the red light house. I said, you know, red light, blue light, don't really care as long as it's a green light for my little fella. It didn't get that big a laugh, because I don't think they heard it very clearly, but you know, they probably looked at me and thought, an officer visiting these parts? It must be an absolute legend. Or absolutely lashed. I'm like, I'm both. Send me to the front line, already there. Well, you know, not already there, but, you know, close enough to shit myself. Anyway, we made off for this house, and as we approached the porch, there was an old lady sat at the door. And it turns out her job is to inspect your pecker before you go in to check for, like, sort of sexually transmitted diseases or whatever, VD, all that sort of stuff. Because apparently what's been happening is lots of soldiers have been deliberately contracting diseases because it gets you 30 days out of the trenches. It could just be guff, but I think it's, you know, there could be something to it. So obviously this woman invites one of us up, and John puts his hand up, our friend from another guy from Wigan, and he was the most excited about the whole thing. And he goes up and he takes his trousers down, and she has a little fondle. But when she's doing it, the poor buggy got a full-on stiffy. Right in front of her. Honestly, all of us, we were just like, you know, lads, it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. You know, on a serious note, there is nothing better for group morale than sort of laughing at each other's inability to hide erections. So anyway, we went into the house, and you know, the place was chock-a-block. The melting pot of the Allied forces' greatest men, I would say, from all over the world, really. France, Australia, England, Canada. Canadians are the best tippers, or at least they're the most guilty in that situation, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, we swanned on over to the bar, and I actually bumped into Sergeant Dormer. Sergeant Dormer, he's a bane in my life. 30, going on about 55. Thinks he's better than all of us. He came over and he said, "Listen, boys, this place is for men who miss their wives, not young scoundrels like yourselves." We saw straight through what he was trying to do. He was trying to hoggle the skirt for himself. Classic Dormer. So we sort of left and went and sat in the corner. I mean, if you ask most senior officers, it's fine, you know, just don't let your mother find out. The British Army needs its men in the peak of physical fitness. And the best way to do that is a good bit of shagging. Unless, of course, you know, you contract gonorrhea. But anyway, it's tough out here, you know. There's not really much to do other than just sort of sit around and wait. Listening to the Fritz shout over the top of the... you can hear them talk to each other when the wind's blowing the right way. We sort of, you know, "Can you speak in English, please?" Because we can't understand them. They wouldn't have heard that because the wind is going in the wrong direction. It's funny to think that just over there, you know, there are men that are wanting to turn us into landowners. And no one wants to die a virgin. Not that I'm a virgin, by the way. I'm, you know, far from it. In fact.
We all volunteered and we wrote down our names, and we added 2 years to our ages. Eager for life and ahead of the game, ready for history's pages. And we brawled and we fought and we hoard till we stood 10,000 shoulder to shoulder.
So the way it usually works is that there are various girls at the bar, and what you do is you go up to the madam and you give her, you know, a franc or two, and then you go and talk to one of the girls and maybe take them upstairs and maybe give another couple of francs. And I still act like a gentleman even in that environment. You know, I introduce myself. I say, how are you doing? And they often reply, yes, I'm sorry, I don't speak English. And I say, you just did, I just caught you. But then they genuinely don't speak much more English than that, and so that joke gets lost in translation. Anyway, I was encouraged by some friends to go and see Catherine. She's the one for me, apparently. And so basically Victor takes me upstairs and he insists that I go in and see this girl, and I thought to myself, all right then, I'm up for this, for king and country. So followed him upstairs and we ended up going through this sort of velvet curtain thing. He waited outside, I went through, and there was Catherine. Suffice to say, she's about 55 or so. And I mean, you know, I appreciate the mature woman, but my cutoff would probably be around 46 and a half, depending on how much fromage they've consumed during their lives. Let's just say that Catherine had consumed rather a lot, by the looks of things. And so, of course, she sort of, you know, I think she noticed that I was a little bit put out, and she asked she said, "Est-ce que tu es timide?" which in French means, "Are you scared?" or "Are you nervous?" depending on the translation. And I said, "No, ma'am, I'm essentially, I'm an officer of the British Army, and I'm here to make sure my boys are behaving themselves." Failing there, and I could hear all the lads out the back, you know, Victor on his own, but, you know, wetting himself at that. I thought it was hilarious. So I let this old woman sort of climb on top of me. But then there's something about her face, I recognised something, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, so I closed my eyes and sort of king and country, you know, king and country, for king and country, for the lads. But then when I opened them again and she was close, I realised she was the spitting image of King George V. I was paying money to have sex with the sodding king. At least that's how it felt. So I sort of, you know, I lifted her heft and sort of threw her onto the bed and threw my money and scuttled out. And all the lads were sort of like, you know, what happened? I say, an officer does not speak about what happened behind the curtain. But then Jack from Wigan, part of our gang, shouts up, "You're still a virgin, are you?" Which is factually incorrect. I don't know where he's got this from. It got a big laugh as well, it always does. It's the most frustrating thing. And I took out a picture of Emily from back home to prove him wrong. Dear Emily.